Hey, what's up, comic reading universe? It's Steven Savelli from #NerdSwag, and I'm here to bring to you the staple stash for comics that were published on March 26, 2014. Today we have comics from Marvel, and we have one comic from Image. No DC comics. Why? Well, we'll talk about that later in the show. For your benefit, in the description, I have added timestamps to skip you ahead to the comic books that you want to hear about if you don't want to listen to every single comic that I read this week. So all you gotta do is go down there, click the little blue timestamp. It'll take you right to the part where I discuss the comic that you might want to only hear about. All right, with that, let's get into it. First comic we're going to review this week is Deadly Class, written by Rick Remender with art by Wes Craig. This is an Image comic. This is issue number 3, and this is probably a comic that you have not heard about, but is the one comic that you should buy it and you should read it. It's on issue number 3, so it's quick and easy to buy 1 through 3 and catch up to where we're currently at. And let me tell you a little bit about why you should buy this current comic. What this does is it follows a character named Marcus, and basically what Marcus is he was a homeless kid that became homeless when his parents died on their way to America. And this is set in the 1980s, and on their way, Wes's parents died. And so basically, with not being a U.S. citizen and his parents dying, he had nothing to live for and became a homeless street rat, really, and went through terrible things, living in homeless shelters, in homes for kids, and all these types of situations. And just a lot of terrible stuff happened to Marcus in his past, which has led him to this comic, Deadly Class. Why it's called Deadly Class is really, it's a class of kids that are going to school to learn how to be assassins. They go to a school called King's Dominion, and it is a school to raise them to bring justice to the world by killing evil people. So they go and kill other killers. Very interesting idea, and it is brought to life by wonderful masterpiece writing by Rick Remender. We're going to just stick on this issue right here, but I highly recommend going back and reading issue 1 and issue 2 and then popping into this book. In this current book, what we have Marcus and his buddy Willie basically going on a mission to kill a murderer. This is something that was set up for them to do by their dark arts school, assassin school, and they're out there to find a guy that Marcus knows about. Our main protagonist, he knows about, that has killed people before when he got back from Vietnam. So they're out there looking for this guy, and in the middle of them going out and finding him out on the streets, there's a lot of dialogue between Marcus and Willie about friendships, relationships, and how no one's really real in those two situations, and that a lot of people hide from their feelings and they hide from acting how they truly feel, and people never really say what they're really thinking, and they basically just have a facade always. There's some awesome dialogue, but my favorite line is Marcus tells Willie, after Willie explains why he puts up a front that he's tough, Marcus says, "Better to expose your ankles just to see which snakes bite," which I find to be an awesome line by Rick Remender. Basically saying, hey, you need to show your emotions, show how you really feel, to see which snakes bite, to see who takes that humility that you showed and uses it back against you to prove that you're weak and prove that you're just not a strong person. I think that's a awesome line in here. Basically, it culminates in them finding out where this guy lives that it was a murder, and Marcus and Willie don't end up killing this guy. He ends up getting away, and they end up killing another person. I won't tell you who they killed, nor will I tell you who killed this person, but a person does die by the end of this comic, and it is very shocking, and it's very graphic, and it just pulls you into this comic. It's done in a very, very, very good way, using flashbacks and old memories that really cause anger to kill this person that you're not expecting. Anyways, this is a great issue. If you are somebody that really likes reading about human interactions, and feelings and disturbed youth, man, this is the comic. And if you don't, and you're just used to reading superhero comics, and you are above the age of, let's say, I don't know, 15, this is a mature comic. If you're old enough to basically get over a few cuss words and some strong imagery, I would recommend this 99% of the time. This is a great comic. Make sure you go out there and buy this and support Rick Remender, who's doing basically a self-owned comic published by Image. Great stuff. I give Rick Remender a 5 out of 5 on the writing, of course, judging by how I'm talking about it. And I'll give Wes Craig a 4 out of 5 on the art. Usually this art isn't something I'm really into, but based on the time frame that it's in and the overall theme of this book, I think the art fits actually perfectly, and there's a lot of cool panel arrangements that I was really digging. And one really sweet splash page. Anyways, all right, next we got Marvel Comics. First comic we're going to talk about today is Guardians of the Galaxy, number 13. This is the Trials of Jean Grey, part 6 out of 6, written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Sarah Pichelli and David Marquez. What we have here is, in previous issues, the Shi'ar have abducted past Jean Grey, who is now currently in the present due to some time travel. The Shi'ar have abducted her to put her on trial for things that dead Jean Grey did as the Phoenix to destroy the Shi'ar parts of the Shi'ar Empire. So we have the Gladiator who takes her and wants to put her on trial. And there's a lot of interesting dialogue about your destiny and what's supposed to happen, in that if they don't try this Jean Grey that hasn't done anything, she's completely innocent. If they don't try her now, then she will become a destructive force in the future, and that it's inevitable, and that the Phoenix Force will get her no matter what. And as we know from other comic runs, the Gladiator has made a point to go and kill everybody that was in Jean Grey's bloodline, so that the Phoenix Force doesn't happen again. As we know it does, if you read Avengers vs. X-Men. But anyway, they go and the Gladiator has her on trial. So they're at the Shi'ar homeland, and what we have are the Guardians of the Galaxy with the all-new X-Men and the Space Jammers, which has Scott Summers' father in that group. All these groups are working together to go and get Jean Grey back and get her to safety. Jean Grey, in the beginning of this, finds out she has a new level of her powers that she did not know that she had, and it opens up in this great splash page of her attacking the Gladiator, and it's her psionic energy, which is basically her telekinesis and her telepathy being used together, which is, well, pretty sweet. You know what she looks like? Is the first time I saw her in these panels, I thought she looked like Terra from Final Fantasy VI, or if you're in North America, Final Fantasy III, the Super Nintendo game. She's like this bright pink, purpley looking figure, and it just gives me flashbacks to my favorite game of all time, Final Fantasy VI. She looks just like her. It's pretty cool. Anyway, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Starjammers, and the all-new X-Men fighting to get Jean Grey back. And there's a lot of discussion about, making, like I said, making your own destiny, and that just because it's happened before doesn't mean it'll happen again. And basically, Jean Grey goes super bad A on all of them, and basically controls the whole situation, controls all of the members involved, and really ends the discussion of who's really in control of her future, which is herself. So it's pretty cool. There are some very, very, very intense ramifications of this comic book. If you're reading any X-Men comics and you're not reading Guardians of the Galaxy, you have to pick this up. There is an ending that's really, really, I didn't see coming. There's a huge drastic effect on Cyclops and what's going to happen to the old Cyclops or past Cyclops going forward in the future. And there's a huge impact, of course, to Jean Grey with her new powers and basically now knowing that she kills so many things, and how heavy that is on her. Something really funny about this comic, of course, is Rocket Raccoon, because he's just great. There's a short little panel that's, I mean, this isn't a spoiler, of course. There's a short little panel section that has Groot interacting with Rocket, and we see Groot saying, "I am Groot," and Raccoon's like, "We talked about this, Groot. Why are you making this weird?" And then it shows a panel of Rocket Raccoon looking at Earth raccoons running up to him, and he yells at them like, "Put some freaking pants on! Like, what are you guys doing?" And then Groot laughs, and it's just a little 3-panel section, but it's funny. The interaction between Groot and Rocket are always fun, and it's it was just hilarious to see him interacting with Earth raccoons, because they're not the same species, but they look exactly the same, and it's always this weird like, hey man, that's a raccoon, but he's not a raccoon. And anyway, it's just awesome. If you're reading Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously this is very impactful, because not only is Jason of Spartax after Peter Quill and the Guardians, but now we have Gladiator and the Shi'ar after Peter Quill and the Guardians. And the Guardians have a lot of foes right now. They have the Shi'ar, they have Spartax, and they have still Thanos out there messing up their gigs. So very, very interesting. I give this writing a 4 out of 5. And the art, where Sarah Pichelli does the first part of the book, I give it a 4 out of 5. And the second half, done by David Marquez, I'll give it 3 out of 5. It kind of loses its artistic intensity towards the end of the book, and Sarah just kills it in the beginning, especially with Jean Grey and her psionic powers. Very good book. All right, next we got the Amazing X-Men number 5, The Quest for Nightcrawler Conclusion. This is written by Jason Aaron with art by Ed McGuinness. I'll go through this quickly. I'm disappointed with this book. Jason Aaron is writing Thor God of Thunder, which is my personal favorite comic run out right now, and he's written a lot of other great stuff lately, but I am just not really feeling the Amazing X-Men. I don't know if it's because it's piratey and kind of campy and funny and jokey, and I don't know, man, I don't even have words for it right now. I'm stumbling. I'm just very disappointed with this book. This book is basically trying to bring Kurt back into Marvel now and have Nightcrawler be a figure, because he's died in the past. This is the conclusion, which you could probably conclude with spoiler alert, Nightcrawler coming back to the Marvel Universe. And this is basically, it's a setup comic for him to be back, and they had to have some sort of story, but not much happens. They fight Azazel, Kurt's father, in the afterlife, because obviously Kurt's dead in heaven. They go through heaven and hell. They go into purgatory. They're currently now fighting in the realm beyond the flesh, and it's basically they fight, and it ends up that Nightcrawler with the Bamfs work together to, not necessarily kill Azazel, but use Azazel as a portal to get Kurt back in the Marvel Universe. Jason tries to add some interesting dialogue in here with Kurt talking to Xavier, who's also dead. So they're both in the heaven realm, and there's some interesting dialogue about Xavier telling him like, "Don't do it. You're making a wrong decision. This is gonna impact a lot of souls and a lot of lives." And Kurt feels responsible for bringing the living X-Men to the afterlife, and basically does everything he can to bring them back to safety, including Wolverine, who in this issue is hurt drastically, and his healing powers are just they're out of commission right now. So him getting hurt is very dangerous to his life. I'm gonna end it with that. Kurt makes a decision that's gonna have some lasting impact. I don't know what it'll be. I actually don't know if I'll continue reading this run. Jason Aaron's done writing this at the end of issue 6. This is issue number 5, and when issue number 7 comes out, I'll read it. And there's now a new just Nightcrawler solo book. I thought I would like this a lot more than I did, and I'm really bummed that I don't. And yeah, I give the writing a 3 and the art a 3. The more that I talk about it now for the first time out loud is I might give the writing a 2. And I might give the art a 2 as well. I don't know. Not digging it. Let's put this down. Next up from Marvel, we have Uncanny X-Men number 19 point now. This is a new jumping on point for all new Marvel now. So we got Uncanny X-Men vs. S.H.I.E.L.D. number 1 up in the corner. This is written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Chris Bachalo. Oh man, the all new Marvel Now stuff is really killing me as a reader. Of course, it's great because the whole idea of the all new Marvel Nows, the renumbering, the point nows, is to attract readers and art reading comics to hop on board, because in the corner it looks like it's number 1, but really this is the middle of a long run of issue number 19. But it makes it accessible to new readers and for people like you who aren't reading this comic to jump on board. Of course, it's also why I'm doing these reviews, to give you guys feedback on which comics to read. So not that I don't like it, but for a personally as a reader who's following all these stories, man, these jumping on points are almost they're almost non-readable. I mean, they're cool and they're fun and there's stuff that happens that you can't miss out on, but it's just pretty slow pacing because they have to work you through the stuff that's happened before so that new readers know what's going on. So in Uncanny X-Men, not too much happens. We have Hijack, who's a new mutant and a new X-Men. 2 issues ago, Cyclops kicked him out for having an interaction with S.H.I.E.L.D. that he didn't really like. So what we have going on here at the beginning of the book is Maria Hill visiting this Hijack guy with a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. members, trying to find out where Scott Summers is, because no one knows where him and the Uncanny X-Men are. Maria Hill doesn't really get very far with him, and she threatens him, basically saying she could put him in jail for the rest of his life. We don't see Hijack really making a decision or not, so we'll see that in the next coming issues. Meanwhile, we have Mystique, who's been basically acting as Dazzler, and going and working for S.H.I.E.L.D. as Mystique, with Sabretooth getting the mutant gene out of Dazzler, and there's just a little bit of dialogue between her and Sabretooth. Mystique's really a powerhouse right now in the evil mutant realm. And this really ends with the Sentinels coming again. We keep seeing this a reoccurring thing in Uncanny X-Men. These Sentinels that look very, very futuristic, that keep dropping in on the X-Men, and Scott Summers has no idea where they're coming from. He's assuming it's S.H.I.E.L.D. because we know from a few issues ago that S.H.I.E.L.D. is creating Sentinels, but I definitely have a feeling that this isn't S.H.I.E.L.D. These Sentinels look very, very futuristic, or very high tech, and I don't think they have anything to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. They look much different, and they are their whole heads and faces are digital, and they're very, very evil looking. So not sure that has too much with S.H.I.E.L.D. It basically ends with Cyclops declaring war on S.H.I.E.L.D. for basically his best guess of who it could be. Other than that, this issue, it was okay. I give the writing a 3 and the art a 4. I really always like Bachalo's art. And Brian Michael Bendis, it's not like he does a bad job of writing, but it's hard to write these jumping on points because you have to move the story along for people like me who read every few weeks and every month of these runs. And then you also have to make it accessible to brand new people that are hopping on to these point nows. So give it a 3 for the writing. Next up, we have Uncanny Avengers number 18 point now. This is written by Rick Remender with art by Daniel Acuna. Rick Remender, who wrote Deadly Class, the first issue I reviewed this week, is a writer for Uncanny Avengers for Marvel. What we have here is the start of a new arc, Avenge the Earth. This arc has to be the undoing of all the stuff we've read in Uncanny Avengers so far. This book is way out in left field. It's in its own space. It almost feels like it has nothing to do with the rest of the Marvel universe, and I don't understand what's happening. Spoiler alert, which isn't really a spoiler alert because this is another number 1 for jumping on point, so you need to know what's going on before this. Captain America is dead. in this story. He was on the Uncanny Avengers, helping Havoc run them, and he died. Captain America is dead in an Avengers book. I don't know. Anyway, he's alive in all the other Marvel Universe. Anyway, Captain America's dead. Scarlet Witch is dead. Rogue is dead. Wolverine is... I feel like he's dead too. It's obviously a really cool book because, you know, with deaths, it's very, very cool to read about deaths of superheroes and stuff like that. But it also feels like you don't need to read this because I don't know what this has to do with anything else in the universe, Marvel Universe. But Avenge the Earth, judging by the title, the title of the number one is, I'm guessing, going to be the undoing of all that, and it's going to reset, and everyone's going to be back to life, and people are going to forget what happened, and oh, I left out a thing. It's called Avenge the Earth because in the last issue, the Earth was destroyed. They're on Planet X now with all mutants, and the Earth is gone. There's no Earth. Yeah. No Earth. Anyway, I can't see this going forever without this all getting reversed. So I'll continue to pick it up because I've purchased 18 of these now and I have liked the writing. Rick Remender, again, kills it with the writing. I give this a 4 out of 5 on the writing. The art, I'll give a 2 out of 5. I am not digging Daniel Acuna's art in this. It seems very washed out and just not detailed enough for me. And from what I've been seeing in Uncanny Avengers, this is just not up to par. With other art we've seen in the series and with the writing of Rick Remender. Just doesn't really fit it. And yeah. Anyway, we have Havoc, Wasp, and Beast trying to reverse what happened. At the end of the book, somebody comes to help them. I'm not going to tell you who that is. I won't give you the spoiler on that one. But it's somebody that if you're reading the rest of the series, you can see coming to their help. And also isn't necessarily a hero. Anyway, if you've been reading Uncanny Avengers, pick this up. If you're interested in Havoc being the main guy in a story and this kind of what seems like now an alternate universe idea, you could pick this up. I wouldn't recommend jumping on it at this point, but the writing's great, but I could see it being super confusing to people who have not been reading this book. Anyways, 4 out of 5 on the writing, 2 out of 5 on the art. All right, last up for this week, we have my least favorite book. I'll get that out of the way now. I gave this basically a 2, not basically, I'm giving this a 2 out of 5. This is New Avengers 16 Point Now. I'm giving this a 2 out of 5 on the writing and a 1 out of 5 on the art. This is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Rags Morales. This is New Avengers 16 Point Now, and they put a number 1 up in the corner. I don't know why. I don't know how this is a jumping on point. This is still, as somebody that's reading it week to week, Jonathan Hickman, I think, tries to outdo himself. He's an awesome writer. I actually was one of the small amount of people that enjoyed Infinity. I loved it. I read all the tie-ins. I was deep into that Infinity series. But the more I read of Jonathan Hickman, I'm just not liking what he's doing. He's extremely confusing. For people that aren't reading the New Avengers, the New Avengers is really focused on the Illuminati. The Illuminati is Black Bolt, Namor, Reed Richards, Iron Man, Beast, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther. That's the new Illuminati, the secret group to try to protect the world. They're right now investigating alternate universes that the worlds die and end in, and they're trying to stop those incursions from happening in our current present world. And this whole issue, it has Namor and Black Panther in it in the first few pages. The rest is a whole issue focused on an alternate universe and how they're dealing with their Earth ending. And these people are the freaking Justice League. They're not literally the DC Justice League, but they are the Justice League. There's a guy named Wayne dressed in all black. There's a guy who's called the Sun God who looks just like Superman with a cape and he flies. There's a green alien in their group, Martian Manhunter. And Jonathan Hickman is writing the Justice League in an Avengers comic. And basically showing us how they're saving their Earth to try to give Namor and Black Panther ideas of how to save the current 616 Marvel Earth. Gosh, it sounds interesting, right? It sounds cool. You're like, oh, the Justice League in a Marvel comic with different names? And this guy, he puts too many characters in his stories. He puts too many ideas that aren't easy to follow along. And I don't know how this is a number one, because if you haven't been reading this, you have no idea what's going on, what incursions mean, what these alternate universes mean, why Black Panther's looking to observe why or how other alternate universes are saving the Earth. It makes no sense. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this comic. Not digging it. I was so in love with the New Avengers when it first started with the Illuminati, and I love the idea of it, and I really enjoyed all the way up till basically the end of the Infinity series, and since then it's been the same comic every single week, and not liking it. The only cool thing I could say is the cover's pretty badass. I'm liking it. Anyways, no DC comics this week. I love DC. I love a lot of their characters, and I have just not been liking their comic books lately. But since I'm doing these reviews, I will be picking up DC again. I read Jeff Johns' Aquaman run all the way until he was done writing it. I've read the Justice League. I've been reading Superman and Wonder Woman. I've been reading Forever Evil. But lately I've just been one by one dropping DC runs because they're just not entertaining, and I'm not liking them. But since I am doing this review show now, I'm going to pick them all back up. I'll be buying them in the future. I'll be buying Batman The Dark Knight again. And if you guys have any suggestions for DC comics that you think I have to be reading, please leave them in the comments. I will check them out, and maybe I'll start picking them up week to week. And it's going to be mandatory that I buy them. And if I don't like them, then you will love me making these terrible reviews about them. So that's what's up going forward. I want to say thank you guys all for watching. Once again, if you have suggestions, leave them in the comments. Please like and subscribe this video to help a brother out and to help spread the word to some of your friends. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And until next time, I will see you guys later.